Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, the world keeps overlooking you? Doors stay shut, respect feels distant, and opportunities slip away. What if the problem isn't your talent or ambition, but the silent rules you've been following, rules designed to keep you small? And here's the real twist. The moment you change how you move, how you speak, and how you carry yourself, everything around you begins to shift. You've been living by patterns that shrink your presence, always explaining yourself, chasing validation, and playing a game stacked against you. That's why life feels like resistance. But the instant you alter your posture, your words, your energy, people lean in. Opportunities start to unfold, and respect flows naturally. This is the invisible game, and when you master it, the world no longer pushes against you. It bends for you. In just a few moments, I'll show you exactly how to move, speak, and exist in a way that makes life respond differently. The truth is simple. You become what you tolerate. Every time you let something slide, whether it's disrespect, mediocrity, laziness, or broken promises, you're sending a message not only to others but to yourself. You're telling your subconscious, this is acceptable, and whatever you accept multiplies. It doesn't matter how ambitious you are, how talented you are, or how much you claim to want success. If your standards are low, your results will match them. Look around. People are stuck in situations they secretly despise, not because they lack potential, but because they've normalized settling. They've accepted average jobs, average relationships, average health, and average results. They whisper that it's fine, while inside they're slowly fading. But life doesn't reward desires. It rewards demands. The world respects those who draw the line. The person who says, I will not accept this, changes everything. When you refuse to tolerate disrespect, people stop offering it. When you stop tolerating laziness from yourself, discipline becomes who you are. And when you reject chaos and drama, your environment transforms to reflect the order you command within. Life listens, people listen, but only when you're serious enough to stop negotiating with nonsense. Standards are not suggestions. They are rules, boundaries, and laws for how you allow life to interact with you. If you accept being overlooked, it will happen. If you accept disrespect, it becomes your norm. The moment you raise the bar, everything recalibrates. People either rise to meet you or step out of your life, and both outcomes serve you. The most powerful people aren't superhuman. They've simply mastered one discipline most never do: the ruthless enforcement of their standards. This isn't arrogance or cruelty, it's clarity. It's deciding, this is who I am. This is what I allow. Everything else doesn't exist in my world. That mindset transforms everything. If you want excellence, demand it. Start with yourself. Raise your standards in how you think, how you speak, how you carry yourself, and how you show up. Stop indulging weakness disguised as comfort, and stop letting fear pose as logic. When you elevate what you demand from yourself, the world has no choice but to follow. This isn't about perfection, it's about precision, about knowing what is non-negotiable. Your peace is non-negotiable. Your goals are non-negotiable. Your self-respect is untouchable. Anything that threatens these becomes invisible. The world bends for those who refuse to bend for nonsense. Show life that you won't tolerate mediocrity, laziness, or disrespect, and life will stop offering it. The weak tolerate, the strong eliminate. Raise your standards, and watch as everything and everyone around you either rises or disappears. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you insist on. This is where the art of strategic absence comes in. There's undeniable power in being seen, but what most fail to realize is that sometimes even greater power lies in not being seen. Presence can create desire, but absence can create it in ways presence never could. The truth is, the more accessible you are, the more ordinary you appear. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort eventually breeds indifference. People begin to take for granted what's always available. They stop valuing what they assume will never leave. If you make yourself constantly accessible, constantly present, you begin to shrink in the eyes of others. The strongest individuals, whether in business, relationships, leadership, or influence, understand this ruthless subtlety. They know the power of pulling back, of letting absence speak louder than presence ever could. When you are always responding, always showing up, you fade into the background noise. But when you step back strategically, you trigger something primal: curiosity, uncertainty, intrigue. Suddenly, your absence speaks louder than any words you could offer. This isn't about playing games, it's about leverage. The more someone sees you, the more predictable you become, and with predictability comes decline in value. Yet the moment you become scarce, fewer appearances, fewer words, fewer explanations, people lean in. They wonder why. They wonder where. And their imagination begins to do the work for you. Imagination is always more powerful than reality. Look at the most respected leaders and admired icons. They are not everywhere at once. They are selective, deliberate, intentional. They know value rises with scarcity. Diamonds are treasured because they are rare. Water, though essential, is abundant, and no one worships it. The same psychology applies to your presence. The less accessible you are, the more magnetic you become. Many make the mistake of believing constant availability will keep them relevant. It doesn't. It only makes you easy to ignore. People respect what they can't easily reach, what feels elevated, rare, slightly out of grasp. When you step back, you don't lose relevance, you amplify it. Silence becomes a statement, and distance becomes a reminder of your value. Mastering the art of strategic absence doesn't mean disappearing. It means choosing your moments wisely. Not every room deserves your presence. Not every conversation deserves your input. And not every person deserves unlimited access to your energy. By pulling back, you let people feel the weight of your absence. Then, when you return, you do so with impact, with presence, with power. The truth is simple. The most respected are never the most available. They are intentional. They make the world notice them precisely because they've mastered the power of absence. Your energy speaks before you do. Long before a word leaves your lips, the world has already judged who you are. Your presence announces itself, walks into the room ahead of you, lingers after you leave, and shapes how people treat you, often without them even knowing why. Most people never realize this. They focus on what to say, how to say it, and how to craft perfect sentences. But they overlook the most powerful form of communication, the invisible signal they broadcast every second. Energy is real. It isn't abstract. It's felt. The confident don't need to declare their confidence. You feel it in their movements, in their gaze, in the way they stand. The insecure don't have to admit their doubts either. You see it in their restless gestures, their fidgeting, their constant need for reassurance. The world is a mirror. It reflects the energy you radiate, whether you notice it or not. Walk through life with uncertainty, and life pushes back with resistance. Move with power, with certainty, with the quiet assurance that you belong, and the world reshapes itself around you. The truth is, everyone broadcasts something. Some project neediness, desperation, or arrogance. Others radiate insecurity, chaos, or fear. But those who command attention and shift the atmosphere simply by walking into a room have mastered the subtle art of controlling what they emit. It's not about pretending. It's about aligning your inner state so strongly that the outside world has no choice but to reflect it. When you operate with certainty in who you are, in your value, in your direction, people feel it. You don't have to explain or prove yourself. You naturally become someone others look to, follow, and respect. Your energy does the work for you. But if it's scattered, if your thoughts are clouded with doubt, or if your inner dialogue is filled with anxiety and second-guessing, that too becomes your signal. The world reads it clearly. Mastering the energy you project begins within, with the conversations you have with yourself when no one else is watching. You either reinforce the identity of someone who leads, commands, and owns their space, or you reinforce the identity of someone who shrinks, doubts, and merely reacts. The mirror never lies. You cannot fake what you don't truly believe. Your posture, your stillness, your pace, the way you take up space. Each of these tells the world a story. The question is, are you writing that story with intention, or are you letting fear write it for you? Because when you control your energy and embody composure, certainty, and power, the world responds in ways that almost feel unfair. Doors open, people listen, opportunities gravitate toward you, not because you forced them, but because you mastered the signal you send. The most powerful individuals rarely speak the most. They don't need to. Their presence already speaks. They can own the room without saying a word. That is a language more powerful than anything you could express. It is the language of presence. The way you enter a room, the way your body carries itself, the way your eyes meet the world, all of it speaks before your voice ever does. Many think power comes from volume or clever words, but real power doesn't need noise. It doesn't need explanations. Real power is silent. It lives in the invisible signals you project every time you step into a space. Walk into any room and watch. People instantly scan you. Your posture, your eye contact, your stillness, your micro-expressions. All of it sends a message. Are you a leader or a follower? Someone to respect or someone to dismiss? This judgment happens within seconds. The room decides before you ever speak. The weak slouch, shrink, and look away. Their bodies reveal their uncertainty. Their eyes dart nervously, signaling submission before a single word is exchanged. And the world responds in kind. Those who master the art of nonverbal dominance, who own their space with quiet certainty, shift the entire dynamic the moment they arrive. Their posture is upright yet relaxed, signaling confidence without tension. Their gaze is steady, not aggressive, not avoidant, but commanding. They hold eye contact not as a challenge, but as a statement. I am here, I am grounded, I am unshaken. Micro-expressions reveal more than most realize. A faint smirk, a raised brow, or composed neutrality speaks volumes, telling the room you are comfortable in yourself and in control of your energy. The one who moves with intention, who doesn't fidget, who isn't desperate to fill silences, commands more respect than the one scrambling for words or approval. People respond far less to your words than you think. What they truly react to is what your body declares about how you see yourself. Carry yourself as if you belong, with nothing to prove, and the room believes it. Carry yourself like you're waiting for permission, and the room will withhold it. Owning the room without words is not arrogance, it's self-certainty. It's the mastery of subtle cues most never notice. It's the pause before you speak. It's how you stand when no one is watching. It's the deliberate pace of your movements. It's knowing your presence alone can be louder than anything you say. When you master this, conversations shift, interactions transform. People treat you differently, not because of what you've said, but because of everything you've silently shown. This is quiet dominance, felt by all, understood by few. It's silent authority that needs no announcement, no justification. You walk in, and the room feels it. True presence is the loudest language there is. This is the art of unapologetic confidence. Confidence isn't performance. It isn't loud. It isn't pretending to be someone you're not. Real confidence is quiet, unapologetic, and undeniable. It doesn't ask for permission to exist. It never shrinks itself to make others comfortable. Real confidence doesn't carry the burden of constant explanation or justification. Yet most people move through life as if they need the world's permission just to take up space. They apologize for their voice, their ambition, even their presence, often without realizing it. You see it in how they lower their gaze, soften their tone, and shrink their existence in every conversation, in every room they enter. But here's the truth few ever hear. When you move like you don't belong, the world believes you. The energy you project becomes the script others read. Walk into a room seeking acceptance or validation, and you've already placed yourself beneath everyone there. You've entered from a place of lack. In that moment, you've told the world, I'm waiting for your approval before I decide how to feel about myself. And the world responds accordingly. It overlooks you, forgets you, and dismisses you. You appeared like someone waiting to be chosen. Unapologetic confidence begins the moment you stop negotiating with yourself about whether you are enough. It's when you refuse to seek external validation to justify your existence. It means stepping into a room not with arrogance, not with a chip on your shoulder, but with quiet inner certainty that you belong. Not because someone told you, not because you were given permission, but because you decided it was true. This isn't about being the loudest voice. It's about being the most grounded, the person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't rush words, who doesn't fidget or fill silences with nervous chatter. It's the presence that quietly declares, I'm not here to prove anything. I'm here because I deserve to be. Apologizing for your existence, through words, body language, or energy, is the fastest way to become invisible. People don't remember those who shrink. They don't respect those who act like intruders in their own lives. But they never forget the one who steps in as if they've always belonged, who commands space simply by being fully and unapologetically themselves. When you embrace this mindset, everything shifts. The energy changes the moment you enter. People notice it. They may not understand why, but they feel it. Something about you doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't ask. It simply is. Because you've stopped waiting for the world to confirm your worth. You already know. That decision, an unwavering belief that you are enough exactly as you are, is what makes the world move around you, not the other way around. This is the art of unapologetic confidence. You don't ask. You don't explain. You exist like you belong, because you do. Learn to be comfortable with making others uncomfortable. Most people spend their lives twisting themselves into shapes that make others feel at ease. They soften their words, dilute their presence, and shrink their energy to avoid tension when others feel unsettled. But here's the truth. The moment you stop catering to the comfort of others, the world begins shifting in your favor. Power isn't given to those who seek approval. Power belongs to those who are unapologetically themselves, even if it unsettles the room. When you walk in fully owning your presence, embodying your worth without apology, something powerful happens. Some lean in with respect, others pull back in discomfort. But that discomfort is not your burden. It never was. Their unease comes from facing something they can't easily categorize. Someone who refuses to play by the unspoken rules of shrinking, pleasing, or begging to be accepted holds a rare kind of power. Whether people admit it or not, they respect it. Deep down, even those unsettled by your presence recognize the truth. The one who does not need approval holds the highest leverage. The constant need to make everyone comfortable is a prison. It forces you to betray yourself in small, invisible ways. You say yes when you mean no. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. You nod in agreement just to avoid friction. With every quiet surrender, you chip away at your own power. But the moment you decide you're no longer responsible for managing the emotions of others, everything shifts. You free yourself. You reclaim the space that was always yours. Powerful people don't fidget for approval. They don't over-explain. They don't backpedal because someone raised an eyebrow or shifted in their seat. Instead, they let silence do the heavy lifting. They allow tension to remain without scrambling to dissolve it. Because they understand discomfort isn't a problem, it's a signal. A signal that boundaries are being set. A signal that respect is being demanded without a word. A signal that the old patterns of people-pleasing are over. If you move through life always trying to keep others comfortable, you will forever live beneath your potential. You will waste your energy smoothing out wrinkles that were never yours to fix. But when you stop caring whether your confidence intimidates someone, whether your standards inconvenience them, or whether your presence forces them to confront their own insecurities, you rise into a different level of existence. This is the life where the world adjusts to you, not the other way around. The irony is clear. The harder you try to make people comfortable, the less they respect you. But the moment you lean fully into who you are, unmoved by how it's received, unbothered by whether it's palatable, you become magnetic. Not because you forced anyone to like you, but because you showed them you didn't need their approval. This is how the world bends. It doesn't bend for the agreeable. It bends for the unapologetic. And silence is one of the most underestimated tools of power. In a world addicted to noise, chatter, and constant validation, silence becomes a weapon. The one who can sit comfortably in silence holds the advantage. While others scramble to fill the void with nervous words, excuses, or explanations, the master of silence stays calm, collected, quietly dominant. Most never see it. They believe influence comes from what they say, how fast they respond, or how eloquently they defend themselves. But the truth is, the person who speaks the least often commands the most attention. Silence unsettles because it forces others to face their own discomfort. It opens the door for insecurity, doubt, and overthinking to creep in. When you stop talking, others talk more. They reveal more than they intend. They second-guess themselves. They wonder what you're thinking. They begin negotiating with themselves in real time. And while that pressure builds, you remain still, unaffected, fully in control of the dynamic. In negotiations, arguments, or intense conversations, those who cannot hold silence always lose. They fold under the weight of their own need to fill the air. But the one who embraces the void, who leans back and lets silence stretch, forces everyone else into a state of vulnerability. It's in that silence that people panic. They assume your quiet means disapproval, judgment, or calculation. They scramble to clarify themselves, adjust their tone, sweeten the deal, or offer more than they intended. Silence does the heavy lifting for you. Its power isn't just in saying less. It's about knowing when not to speak. In conflict, most people rush to defend, react, or explain. But when you stay silent, you flip the script. The other person is left battling their own thoughts. Did they go too far? Did they offend you? Are you angry? Or simply unimpressed? They don't know. That uncertainty becomes leverage. Silence communicates what words rarely can: complete self-assurance. It says, without saying, that you don't need to convince, chase, or earn approval. It's the unspoken message that your worth is already decided by you, not them. That certainty is magnetic. It makes people lean in, pay closer attention, and tread carefully. When you don't scramble to fill the silence, you signal that you hold the upper hand. There is an art to letting silence stretch, an intentional pause that feels endless to others but feels like control to you. You hold it until the other person breaks, until they reveal more, until they sweeten the offer, until they expose their hand. The void becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront themselves while you sit calm, untouched. Silence is not emptiness. It is pressure. It is power. Silence is the invisible force that shifts the dynamic in your favor without a single word. Stop explaining. Stop justifying. At some point, you realize the constant need to explain your choices, your boundaries, even your existence, is a subtle form of weakness. It hides behind the mask of being reasonable, polite, or considerate. But beneath it lives something far less noble, a hunger for approval, a quiet insecurity whispering, if they understand me, maybe they'll accept me. The harsh truth is, the more you explain, the more you dilute your power. The more you justify, the more permission you give others to question your worth. Strong people don't explain themselves. They don't plead for understanding. They don't soften their edges to make others comfortable with who they are. They live from a place where validation is internal, not external. Their presence speaks for itself. Their results are the loudest voice in the room, in how they move, how they carry themselves, and how they execute. They don't need words because everything about them already delivers the message: I am not here for your approval. I am here because I chose to be. When you over-explain, you unconsciously lower your status. You hand power to others by signaling that their understanding is necessary for your decision to be valid. But it's not. Whether people agree with your standards, your boundaries, or your path is irrelevant. Their approval is not the currency that defines your worth. Yet most people move through life as if it were. Many people water down their truth, adding endless footnotes to their decisions and wrapping their boundaries in justifications, all to avoid that uncomfortable moment when someone disagrees. But here's the shift that changes everything. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. Not for walking away from chaos, not for raising your standards, not for saying no, and not for doing what aligns with your growth. Powerful people understand that clarity is enough. A decision is enough. A boundary is enough. There is no courtroom, no jury. Your life is not up for debate. Watch how the dynamic shifts when you stop explaining. Conversations end faster. Respect grows quieter but deeper. People quickly realize that the usual back and forth, where they expect to question, debate, or negotiate your boundaries, doesn't exist with you. You've closed the door on that pattern, and in that silence, a different kind of power emerges. One that cannot be faked, one that cannot be taken. Let your results speak. Let the way you move through life explain everything anyone ever needs to know. Let your presence communicate what your words no longer have to. The moment you stop explaining and justifying, the moment you decide your own validation is the only one that counts, you become untouchable. Not because you declared it to the world, but because you finally realized you never needed to. This is walkaway power, the ultimate leverage. Nothing commands more respect than the quiet, unspoken ability to leave. It is the invisible weapon that shifts every dynamic, every negotiation, every interaction in your favor. Most never grasp this truth. They believe power comes from how much they can hold on to, how much they can convince, persuade, or endure. But real power isn't found in attachment. It's found in detachment. It's the unwavering willingness to let go of anything that disrespects your worth, violates your standards, or no longer serves your vision. If you can't walk away, you're trapped. It doesn't matter how confident you appear, how clever your words are, or how strong your presence seems. If deep down you know you need the job, the relationship, the opportunity, or the validation, you've already surrendered your power. The other side can feel it. They can sense it instantly. People know when you're tethered to fear, when you negotiate from lack, when you silently pray things will work out because you believe you have no other options. But when you carry the energy of someone who can calmly, confidently, unapologetically walk away, without fuss, without drama, without a second glance, the game changes. Suddenly, the entire dynamic tilts in your favor. You're no longer chasing, you're choosing. You're no longer begging for acceptance, you're offering opportunity. The leverage is yours because you've shown, without saying a word, that your self-respect is non-negotiable. People, consciously or not, treat you based on the limits you set. If they sense you won't walk away, that you'll bend, compromise, or tolerate anything just to stay, they'll push those boundaries. But when you prove through actions, not words, that you're fine walking away from anything misaligned, they recalibrate quickly. That's the brutal truth of human nature. We value what isn't desperate. We respect what doesn't need us. Detachment isn't indifference, it's clarity. It's knowing your peace, your standards, and your mission are not up for debate. You can love deeply, commit fully, and care immensely, but none of it matters if you lack the courage to walk when a situation no longer aligns with who you are. It's not a threat. It's not an ultimatum. It's a quiet, unwavering fact. I don't force. I don't beg. I don't chase. I choose. This mindset terrifies those who rely on control because suddenly they realize they have none over you. You become the wild card, the one who cannot be manipulated, coerced, or guilt-tripped. You've removed their greatest weapon against you, your own fear of loss. If you cannot walk away, you are owned by whatever you fear losing. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that nothing outside yourself holds that power, you become untouchable. The world bends to those who don't fear letting go, because those who can walk away at any moment are the ones no one dares to lose. This is the certainty principle. Certainty is a force so powerful it bends reality itself. People assume truth is objective, that facts and logic control conversations, negotiations, and decisions. But the reality is far more primal. The human mind isn't built to follow truth, it's built to follow certainty. When someone stands before you radiating unwavering belief in themselves, their words, and their position, it triggers something deep in the subconscious. Whether people realize it or not, they lean toward that certainty. They defer to it, they yield to it, because certainty in any setting looks like leadership. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, if you hold the best credentials, or even the strongest argument. Deliver any of it with hesitation, with doubt, with uncertainty, and the world mirrors it back. But the one who moves with total conviction, without flinching, second-guessing, or fidgeting for approval, becomes the gravitational center of any room they enter. People orbit certainty because it gives them what their minds crave: the illusion of safety, the comfort of direction, the sense that someone knows the way. This is why the loudest voice isn't always the most correct, but it is often the most followed. And this is why leaders are rarely the most knowledgeable. They are simply the most certain. The energy of certainty communicates what words never could. I believe, therefore you should too. The world mirrors that energy without even questioning why. You've seen it happen countless times. Two people deliver the same message. One speaks with shaky words, timid posture, and doubt seeping through every sentence. The other delivers it with poise, composure, and an unshakable tone that leaves no room for debate. The second could be entirely wrong, yet they win the room. Not because the facts supported them, but because the energy did. Certainty is magnetic. It shifts power. It silences opposition. It forces others to recalibrate, questioning if they missed something or if their own doubts are valid. People dislike trusting uncertainty, so when faced with someone who shows none, they subconsciously surrender to it. The transfer of power is instant, invisible, and unstoppable. The truth is, The world isn't waiting for you to be perfect. It's waiting for you to be certain. The one who doubts themselves invites others to do the same. But the one who stands tall in belief, no matter how radical, commands attention, respect, and often compliance. You become the authority when you act like the authority. Certainty is not arrogance. It's not bravado. It's an internal decision. I trust myself. I back myself. I move as if my words are law. Because in the game of power, it isn't truth that wins, it's belief. Those who project absolute certainty don't just influence reality, they bend it. Emotional mastery means being the calm in every storm. There is a rare kind of power that doesn't come from wealth, status, or appearance. It's not found in how loud you speak, how dominant you try to appear, or how aggressively you demand respect. It comes from something far deeper, quieter, and infinitely more commanding. The ability to remain calm, truly calm, unmoved, unshaken. A presence so steady, so composed, it shifts the energy of every room it enters. The one who masters their emotions holds a power the reactive majority can never touch. Most people live at the mercy of their feelings, slaves to triggers, to circumstances, to the unpredictability of the world around them. A minor inconvenience ruins their day. An insult breaks their focus. A setback sends them spiraling into doubt, frustration, or panic. This is the default state of the average mind, reactive, volatile, easily manipulated. And the moment you live from that state, you give away control. You hand your power to anyone who knows which buttons to push. But the person who refuses to react, who won't panic, becomes untouchable. They step outside the game most people are trapped in, no longer dancing to the chaotic rhythms of others' moods, insults, or provocations. They move from a grounded place, an inner stillness that nothing external can shake. And that calm, that presence in the face of chaos, commands true respect, not through force or noise, but simply through being. Imagine this. Chaos erupts in a meeting. People raise their voices, emotions spike, tension fills the room. Most either escalate with the chaos or shrink under the pressure. But then there's one person, composed, steady, unshaken. They don't react, don't rush to speak, don't flinch. Their calm becomes a mirror, exposing the hysteria of everyone else. Without saying a word, they command the room. Their control over themselves turns into control over the environment. The power dynamic shifts, and everyone feels it, even if they can't explain why. This is emotional mastery. It's not about suppressing feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about refusing to be ruled by them. Emotions are signals, not commands. You can acknowledge anger without becoming angry. You can feel stress without letting it dictate your next move. You can face discomfort without scrambling to escape it. Mastery doesn't make you less human. It makes you stronger than the version of yourself who collapses under every wave of emotion. Never reacting doesn't mean never acting. It means you act by choice, not by chaos. You move when you decide, not when someone provokes you, not when circumstances pressure you, not when fear whispers in your ear. You become deliberate, calculated, grounded. And in that, people sense something different. They realize, consciously or not, that you are someone they cannot easily destabilize. Someone whose buttons they cannot push. Someone who doesn't bleed emotional energy into every interaction. The one who masters emotion carries an aura others can't replicate. While the world panics, they breathe. While others react impulsively, they observe. While people crumble under the weight of their own volatility, they stand firm. And because of that, they win, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. The truth is, emotional mastery is the most valuable discipline you can ever develop. Life will never stop throwing storms your way. People will disappoint you. Situations will blindside you. Challenges will escalate when you least expect them. But none of that matters once you stop depending on the world to be calm in order for you to be calm. You become the calm. You become the constant. You become the presence others look to when everything else is falling apart. Never react. Never panic. Master yourself, and the world has no choice but to respect you. In a sea of chaos, the calmest presence is always the most powerful. That's why you must detach from outcomes and attach to standards. Most people quietly sabotage themselves by obsessing over results. Their self-worth rises and falls with every win, every loss, every outcome. They act like emotional gamblers, scanning for proof that success is arriving fast enough, wondering if their efforts are paying off. And when results don't appear on their timeline, they collapse, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The brutal truth is this: anyone who ties their identity to outcomes is destined to suffer. Outcomes are never guaranteed. The finish line keeps moving. Life does not reward desperation, it punishes it. Winners play a different game. Their focus isn't on whether the goal is achieved today or tomorrow. Their focus is on how they show up, relentlessly, consistently, with absolute discipline. Their obsession isn't with the prize, but with their standards. Discipline becomes identity. Excellence becomes non-negotiable. The result stops matching, because the standard itself is the result. This mindset shifts everything. It eliminates the emotional turbulence of constantly checking if things are working. Energy is no longer wasted on worry. It's funneled into execution, into process, into mastery. Outcomes are external, always tied to factors outside your control. Other people's decisions, timing, luck, and circumstances are external. But standards, those are internal. They are the line you draw in the sand and refuse to cross. You decide how hard you work. You decide how prepared you are. You decide the discipline, focus, and precision you bring into every moment. That's real power, the one thing no one can take from you. A mind anchored in standards doesn't care if success takes 1 year or 10. The question isn't, will it happen? The only question is, am I showing up at the highest level, no matter what? And the answer must always be yes. When that becomes your foundation, success is inevitable. The world eventually bends to those who refuse to lower their standards. Desperation for results creates shortcuts. It leads to rushed decisions, sloppy execution, and emotional chaos. People don't burn out because their dreams are too big. They burn out because their focus is in the wrong place, obsessing over outcomes instead of mastering the process. The paradox is clear. The more you obsess over results, the slower they arrive. But the more you detach from needing the outcome and instead obsess over your standards, the faster everything accelerates. Winning becomes a habit when the requirement is no longer external success, but internal excellence. The person who falls in love with discipline, who demands precision from themselves day after day, who holds themselves to a standard most would never even consider, that person becomes unstoppable. The scoreboard stops matching, because the real scoreboard is self-respect. And that's something no loss can erase and no one can grant. It is built within. Outcomes will always fluctuate. Markets shift. People disappoint. Timing misaligns. But standards never fail you. A person tied to outcomes is fragile. A person tied to standards is invincible. That's the difference between those who hope they might win and those who always do. Not because they chase the reward, but because they chase the highest version of themselves and refuse to stop until the world has no choice but to match them. Master perceived value. People don't respond to who you truly are. They respond to who you show them you are. Subconsciously, energetically, behaviorally. The world doesn't hand out value fairly. It doesn't measure your worth by your intentions, your goodness, or even your competence. It measures by perception, by cues, by signals, by the invisible energy you broadcast without saying a word. You are constantly teaching people how to treat you. Every glance, every tone, every decision signals exactly where to place you on the hierarchy of respect. Most walk through life unaware of this. They wonder why they're overlooked, underestimated, or dismissed. They think it's because others are unfair or cruel. But the truth cuts deeper. The world mirrors back exactly what you project. Show up doubtful, and you'll be given doubt. Move like you're secondary, and people will treat you as an afterthought. But when you shift the way you carry yourself, when your energy, posture, and presence communicate absolute belief in your own value, the environment has no choice but to respond. Perceived value is an unspoken negotiation happening constantly. In every room and every interaction, people are scanning you, consciously or not, asking, is this someone to follow? Someone to admire? Someone to respect? Or someone to ignore? And their decision isn't based on your resume, your background, or even your words. It's based on how you treat yourself, how you move, how you hold space, how unapologetic you are about your own existence. All of it speaks. The person with high perceived value doesn't wait for validation. They don't fish for compliments or seek reassurance. Their posture speaks. Their stillness speaks. Their ability to sit in silence without fidgeting or scrambling to prove themselves speaks even louder. People feel it. And in that feeling, something powerful happens. Respect, intrigue, gravity. Perceived value is not arrogance, and it's not pretending to be someone you're not. It's the result of deciding that your presence matters, that your time matters, that your energy is valuable, and then moving through the world in a way that reflects that truth. It's about understanding that people are watching how you treat yourself. If you respect yourself, they follow. If you prioritize yourself, they adapt. If you speak as though your words carry weight, they listen, not by choice, but because human psychology is wired to respond to certainty, confidence, and self-respect. Raise your perceived value, and everything shifts. Conversations change. Opportunities multiply. Negotiations tilt in your favor, not because you begged, but because you silently demanded it through how you showed up. People feel the difference between someone desperate to be chosen and someone who knows they are the choice. That energy cannot be faked. It's something you become. Mastering perceived value means raising your standards in every area of life. It means walking away from any environment, any person, or any dynamic that fails to recognize your worth. Not with anger, not with drama, but with calm indifference. The quiet understanding that your value is not a debate, not up for negotiation, not something that fluctuates with someone else's inability to see it. The truth is, people only treat you the way you subconsciously teach them to. Show them how to respect you by first respecting yourself, fully, unapologetically, until they have no choice but to follow your lead. Raise your perceived value, and the world will rise to meet it every time. Controlled mystery, why less is always more. Nothing commands attention quite like the unknown. In a world where everyone overshares, overexplains, and broadcasts their every thought, the one who holds something back becomes magnetic. Mystery sparks curiosity on a primal level. The human mind hates open loops. It obsesses over unanswered questions, fixates on what it can't fully grasp. That's why less is always more. The less people know, the more they project, the more they imagine. And what they imagine is almost always more powerful than the plain truth could ever be. Most people believe being understood equals being respected. They think if they explain themselves enough, overshare enough, reveal every detail of their plans, people will finally see their worth. But it never works that way. The more accessible you are, the more ordinary you seem. Predictability kills intrigue. Familiarity dulls significance. Once people think they've figured you out, they stop paying attention. Controlled mystery isn't about secrecy for its own sake. It's about selective revelation. It's knowing how to say less, show less, and reveal less, while still moving with power and intention. The person who doesn't narrate every move, who doesn't feel the need to post every step or justify every decision, becomes someone others can't quite decode. And that inability to figure you out is what creates fascination. Mystery forces people to lean in. It makes them second guess. They begin wondering what you're thinking, what you're planning, what you know that they don't. Silence turns into a power play. Being less available, less predictable, and less explainable forces others to meet you on your terms, not theirs. When you don't broadcast your next move, people are left guessing, and in that guessing, they place you higher. Curiosity shifts into respect. Uncertainty becomes gravity. By embracing unpredictability, you make yourself harder to manipulate, harder to control, harder to dismiss. People can't play games with someone whose playbook they'll never access. You stop operating in the obvious. You become the variable others must adjust to. The moment people can no longer predict your every move is the moment you step into a new kind of power. The most magnetic individuals aren't the ones who speak the most, but the ones who speak last. The ones who let silence linger, who keep others wondering. They reveal just enough to hold attention, but never so much that they become ordinary. Mystery isn't emptiness, it's intentional restraint. It's the deliberate choice to let your presence speak louder than words. Mastering controlled mystery is mastering the art of tension. It's the space between what's seen and unseen that carries true power. In that space lies respect, curiosity, and memorability. Not because you forced it, but because you refused to give them everything. Frame control always leads the interaction. Every encounter is a battle of frames. The invisible lens through which reality is shaped, in any social setting. It decides who holds the power, whose perspective dominates, whose version of reality is accepted by the room. And this isn't always verbal. It's not about volume or aggression. It's a silent power game running beneath every conversation, every negotiation, every exchange. Either you control the frame, or someone else does. There is no middle ground. Most people walk into interactions unaware this game is even happening. They show up reactive, submissive, and fall into whatever frame is handed to them. They accept the tone others set. They respond to the questions, the assumptions, and the energy someone else establishes, never asking if that frame empowers or weakens them. This is how people quietly lose power every day, without even realizing it was something worth protecting. The one who controls the frame leads the interaction. They decide how things are perceived, what matters, and what gets dismissed. They choose whether something is serious or trivial, whether tension remains or dissolves, whether the exchange is a negotiation, a test, or just a casual talk. It isn't about arguing or debating. It's about presenting reality with such confidence that others subconsciously accept it as fact. Frame control begins with presence. When you enter a room grounded, centered, and steady, people feel it. They sense you're not there to adapt to anyone else's reality. You're there to project your own. The way you stand, the calmness of your tone, the deliberate nature of your movements. These form the foundation of your frame. Others notice that stability and certainty, and their nervous systems begin to align with it. This is primal. People crave certainty. When they feel yours, they follow, often without realizing why. Controlling the frame means refusing to react. The moment you jump to defend yourself, over-explain, or match someone else's chaos, you've already stepped into their frame. The moment you react, even subconsciously, you've agreed they're leading the dance and you're following. But when you stay still, letting their energy bounce off you like static, you silently assert that your frame is stronger. You refuse to engage on terms that don't serve you. Mastering the frame is mastering the art of subtle redirection. If someone enters with tension, you decide whether tension exists. If they try to assert dominance with aggression, you decide whether that aggression even matters. Your ability to remain detached and grounded gives you leverage. You can amplify, diffuse, or completely ignore whatever energy comes your way. You set the tone, you control the tempo. People don't follow the loudest person. They follow the one who believes most deeply in their own reality. The one whose energy says, this is how things are. Accept it or be irrelevant. This isn't arrogance, it's leadership. Every powerful figure you've ever admired knew this instinctively or deliberately. They didn't enter rooms asking, how do I fit in? They walked in deciding, this is how it's going to be. That mindset bends conversations, negotiations, and even entire rooms around them. Frame control is psychological gravity. Your presence becomes the center point, everything else orbits. You're no longer reacting or chasing validation. You're leading, not with force, but with certainty, presence, and the refusal to accept any reality that doesn't serve your purpose. Either you control the frame, or you're controlled by it. In every interaction, that's the game being played. And power isn't usually lost in dramatic clashes. It slips away in subtle, almost invisible ways. It's the slight defensiveness when someone throws an insult, the nervous laugh after a passive-aggressive jab, the quick flinch at a hint of disapproval. These reactions may look small, but beneath the surface they're catastrophic. Every time you emotionally engage with an attempt to destabilize you, whether through criticism, sarcasm, or manipulation, you silently hand over power. You validate their frame. The moment you accept their invitation into that game, you've already lost. The world is full of people who, consciously or not, test your emotional stability. Some do it to assert dominance. Others do it out of insecurity, tossing shade to feel taller. And then there are those who thrive on chaos, feeding off the reactions of others to feel significant. The second you take the bait, by defending, explaining, or reacting, you confirm their words carry weight. You accept the frame that you are on trial, that your worth or correctness is up for debate. The emotional invalidation technique is the silent refusal to play. It's the deliberate choice not to register their attempt to pull you off balance. When someone throws an insult, a snide remark, or an underhanded critique, the most powerful response is not to fight back or explain. It's to treat it like static, irrelevant, beneath recognition. Your lack of reaction becomes the loudest statement in the room. You show, without a single word, that their attempt didn't land, didn't matter, and wasn't worthy of acknowledgement. This isn't passive silence, it's active dominance. This isn't avoidance. It's proof their words have no leverage over your inner state. Where most people scramble to defend themselves or lash out to restore balance, you stay completely unshaken. The person who expected to control your emotions is left holding nothing. Their weapon, words meant to trigger, falls powerless in the silence. A neutral gaze, a slight smirk, or calmly shifting the subject without even acknowledging the remark dismantles the entire game. It exposes their attempt for what it truly is, weakness disguised as provocation. You show everyone in the room, without saying a word, that you don't bleed for things that don't matter. You don't fight battles beneath you. You don't wrestle in the mud with those desperate to drag you down. Manipulation only works when it sparks reactivity. Insults only sting when they land on someone willing to receive them. Criticism only destabilizes when it hits a person secretly doubting themselves. But when you remove the possibility of reaction, when your value, your identity, and your peace remain untouchable, you dismantle the very ground manipulators, critics, and provocateurs stand on. This is more than defense. It's offense disguised as stillness. The moment someone realizes they can't emotionally move you, they're forced to face their own irrelevance in your world. That realization, whether they admit it or not, recalibrates how they deal with you. They either rise with respect or step away entirely. Either way, you win. Mastering the emotional invalidation technique isn't about never feeling. It's about never handing those feelings over to someone unworthy of them. You stay composed not because you suppress emotion, but because you've outgrown the childish games others play to feel powerful. Their chaos isn't yours. Their insecurity isn't yours. Their weakness doesn't deserve your reaction. The most powerful presence in any room isn't the loudest. It's the one who refuses to validate anything meant to destabilize them. In that refusal, you become untouchable. Speak in commands, not suggestions. Language is more than communication, it's control. It's the hidden mechanism through which power is transferred, respect is earned, and influence is secured. Yet most people move through life speaking in suggestions, soft, hesitant, permission-seeking words that quietly signal, I hope this is okay. I hope you agree. I hope I'm allowed. They lace their speech with hedges and disclaimers, trying to avoid friction or disapproval. But each time they do, they broadcast weakness. They show the world they don't trust their own authority. Leaders never speak this way. They don't dilute their words with question marks where periods belong. They don't shrink their language to seem agreeable or harmless. Instead, they speak in commands, not by barking orders, but in a calm, grounded tone that assumes alignment rather than requests it. A suggestion quietly says, I'm not sure this is the right move. It leaves room for debate, delay, or dismissal. A command, on the other hand, radiates certainty. It communicates, this is what happens next. There's no space for hesitation, no crack for resistance to slip through. This isn't about being rude or domineering. It's about understanding that the words you choose shape how people respond. Say, maybe we could try this, and you leave the door open to doubt. Say, we're doing this, and the door closes instantly. That subtle shift in tone flips the power dynamic. Because people naturally respond to certainty, certainty feels safe. The human brain craves leadership, structure, and clarity. When you speak as someone who knows exactly where things are headed, others naturally fall in line. Not from force, but because your clarity feels stabilizing in a world full of uncertainty. Leaders speak in commands because they understand one truth. People don't follow suggestions. They follow decisions. This doesn't require aggression or volume. It requires the complete absence of doubt in your tone, your delivery, and your presence. You don't say, I think we should. You say, we're moving forward with this. You don't ask, would it be okay if? You say, this is how we're doing it. The words may be simple, but the impact is profound. Most avoid speaking this way out of fear of seeming harsh or offensive. But the truth is, those who respect you most will be the ones who see you stand firm in your clarity. The ones who ask you to soften, shrink, or dilute your words were never meant to walk beside you in the first place. People remember those who lead with decisive energy, and they quickly forget those who beg for permission to exist. Commands don't come from volume. They come from certainty, from the understanding that your words are an extension of your presence, and your presence carries authority because you've decided it does. You're not waiting for anyone to crown you credible. You've crowned yourself. That internal decision echoes in every word you speak. The world organizes itself around those who speak as if they expect to be followed, not out of fear, but through the magnetic pull of someone who moves as though their words shape reality, because they do. Speak in commands, and watch how quickly the room shifts, how obstacles collapse, and how people align. Not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Ruthless selectivity is built not just by what you do, but by what you refuse to do. Every day, the world throws distractions at you. Conversations that don't matter, people who drain your energy, tasks that lead nowhere, obligations disguised as opportunities. And most people, without realizing it, say yes far too often. They scatter their energy across things that don't build them, don't move them forward, and don't elevate them. Then they wonder why progress feels slow, why confidence feels fragile, and why life feels stuck in neutral. Ruthless selectivity is the discipline of choosing yourself above everything else. It's the refusal to participate in anything that doesn't serve your highest self, your vision, your mission. This isn't selfishness, it's survival. Because your energy is finite. Your time is finite, and anyone who lives as if those resources are unlimited guarantees one outcome: mediocrity. Average isn't born from failure, it comes from delusion. Too many obligations, too many meaningless conversations, too many low-level commitments drain you before you ever reach what truly matters. The most magnetic and untouchable people in the world aren't the ones hustling the hardest. They are the ones who conserve their energy with precision. They guard their time, their attention, and their presence as if it were currency. Because it is. They are unavailable for drama, gossip, or obligations that don't elevate them. Their selectivity becomes their leverage, and their ability to say no is their ultimate power move. This level of selectivity doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate choice to stop diluting yourself, to stop apologizing for protecting your energy. It's the discipline of being intentional about where you show up, who gains access to you, and what conversations enter your mental space. Every yes is an exchange. Every commitment is an investment. The question is always the same. Is the return worth it? Does this elevate me, sharpen me, or move me closer to the life I'm building? If the answer is anything but yes, then the decision is no, without guilt, without explanation. When you begin living this way, people will notice. Some will call it selfish, others arrogant. Let them. Their discomfort is only the byproduct of watching someone enforce boundaries they've never had the courage to set. Meanwhile, the right people, the focused, the disciplined, the powerful, will recognize it immediately. They'll respect it, they'll mirror it, because the world silently honors those who refuse to entertain nonsense. Ruthless selectivity makes you the person whose time carries weight, whose presence is never taken for granted. You stop being the one who shows up for everyone else's priorities and become the one who shows up only for what aligns with your purpose. And in doing so, you become rare. You become valuable. In a world full of people who say yes to everything, the one who chooses wisely is the one who holds all the leverage. The world bends to those who treat their time as sacred, who guard their energy with discipline. Saying no isn't rejection, it's refinement. It's the filter that leaves only what is pure, powerful, and essential. Ruthless selectivity isn't just a tactic, it's a lifestyle. It's a declaration that you are no longer available for anything less than extraordinary. And when you live this way, everything begins to shift in your favor. Move like a winner before you become one. The world doesn't respond to who you are, it responds to who you believe you are. Reality does not shape perception, perception shapes reality. This is one of the most overlooked truths about success, influence, and presence. Too many people wait. They wait for validation, results, permission, some external sign that says, now you've made it. But that's not how the world works. The world doesn't reward those who wait for confirmation. It rewards those who decide. Everything starts with how you see yourself. Self-perception is the foundation of your reality. The way you move, the way you speak, the way you interact with others. All of it flows from the story you tell yourself about who you are. If that story is weak, hesitant, filled with doubt and insecurity, the world will reflect it back to you. People may not always articulate it, but they'll feel it in the micro-expressions you cannot hide. The hesitation in your voice, the subtle shifts in your body language, the energy of someone still waiting to be chosen. It's unmistakable, and it guarantees that no one chooses you. Winners don't wait for victory before they act like it. They move like winners long before the trophies ever appear. Not because they're pretending, and not because they're delusional, but because they understand the identity must come before the outcome. They become it first. Their thoughts, habits, posture, tone, and presence all align with the version of themselves that already has it. And then something remarkable happens. Reality adjusts. When you carry yourself like someone who knows they belong at the top, the world responds. People treat you differently. Doors open sooner. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere, not because of luck. It's not that the world suddenly woke up and noticed you. It's that you began sending a new signal. A frequency shift. Your energy broadcasted something different. I am the one. And whether others realize it or not, they respond. Look at the body language of winners, the ones who command rooms and walk with gravity. Their movements are deliberate. They don't rush. They don't fidget. They don't nervously over-explain. They are composed, steady, rooted. They speak as if their words carry weight, because in their mind, they do. That belief leaks into every interaction. Their eyes hold firm. Their voice doesn't rise at the end of sentences, fishing for approval. Their presence does the heavy lifting. This isn't arrogance. It's not about puffing yourself up or performing confidence. It's about alignment. Acting like a winner before you are one isn't fakery. It's about refusing to live out of sync with the version of yourself you're building. There is no external moment, no magic day when the world hands you permission. That permission has always been internal. Yet most people live in reverse. They wait for proof before they allow belief. They think, once I'm successful, then I'll stand taller, speak clearer, and carry more confidence. But the equation doesn't work that way. You don't walk tall because you succeeded. You succeed because you walk tall first. The world won't validate you until you validate yourself. Look at anyone who achieved something extraordinary. Long before the results, before the recognition, they were already operating as if it was inevitable. They carried themselves with the certainty that it wasn't a matter of if, but when. And that energy is magnetic. People trust those who trust themselves. Investors back those who look like they don't need the investment. Audiences follow the ones who speak like their words already matter. Opportunities flow to those who appear to be the natural fit. And who is the natural fit? The one who acts as if they already belong there. This is a truth most never grasp. Reality moves slower than belief. The shift always begins inside. Long before the world knows your name, you must know it. Long before the world decides you're worthy, you must move like someone who has already decided that for yourself. That isn't delusion, it's leadership, it's mastery. Moving like a winner means bringing a different presence into every room. It means refusing to explain your worth, refusing to beg for opportunities, and refusing to dilute your energy or your voice just to fit into places you were meant to lead. The person who moves like a winner doesn't rush to fill silences. They aren't desperate to be liked. They understand that scarcity creates value, that the less you need to be seen, the more visible you become. Every detail of how you carry yourself signals something. People are always scanning. Is this someone who leads? Someone who commands respect? Or is this someone waiting to be told what they're allowed to have, who they're allowed to be? That split-second judgment isn't based on your resume or credentials. It's based on how you show up. It's in your gaze, your stillness, your posture, your tone. Moving like a winner before you are one means holding discipline when no one is watching. It means living by a standard long before rewards arrive. Confidence is easy when results are obvious. But those who move the world are the ones whose confidence existed long before the evidence. They decided that applause, approval, or recognition would never dictate how they operate. They are already it, already chosen, already inevitable. This is the secret that bends reality. The world cannot help but match the energy you project. When you show up as the version of yourself who has already made it, the world looks for ways to confirm that story. It delivers proof aligned with the frequency you've chosen. But it only works in that order. Belief first, movement first, and reality catching up after. Winners win because they refuse to move like anything less. They don't wait. They don't beg. They don't hesitate. They decide. And that decision changes how they speak, how they walk, how they navigate the world. Everything else is simply the world adjusting to what they already knew. The art of strategic absence. Presence has power, but absence, when used with intention, can command respect in ways presence never will. Most people are addicted to being seen. They believe that constant visibility equals value, so they show up endlessly, overexposing themselves. In doing so, they dilute their presence until it becomes background noise, predictable, familiar, easy to overlook. What they don't realize is that presence only creates desire when paired with absence. What is always available loses value, while what is scarce becomes priceless. When you're constantly accessible, always responding, always showing up, people naturally begin to take you for granted. Not out of cruelty, but because human psychology is wired that way. Familiarity breeds comfort, but comfort breeds indifference. Anything too common loses its edge, its mystery, its power. Those who master the art of strategic absence live by a different rulebook. They understand their presence is currency, and overexposure, like inflation, destroys value. So they move differently. They don't rush to every invitation, attend every gathering, or answer every message. They show up where it matters, then withdraw, not out of arrogance, but with precision. Absence creates space for intrigue, forcing others to wonder, to imagine, to fill the gaps with curiosity. And curiosity elevates your value far more than explanation ever could. When you step back intentionally, the silence of your absence echoes louder than words. People start asking questions they never asked when you were always present. Where are they? What are they doing? Why aren't they here? The moment you're no longer instantly accessible is the moment people realize how much your presence meant. But this isn't about disappearing completely. Disappearance is neglect. Strategic absence is an art. It's the deliberate rhythm of showing up and stepping back. It's knowing when your presence elevates the room and when your absence amplifies you. It takes discipline to resist the ego's craving for constant validation and instead trust that space creates scarcity, and scarcity creates value. When you withdraw, people are forced to engage with the void you leave behind. They feel it, even if they never say it. That subtle tension, that vacuum, becomes the space where your influence grows. Not through effort or words, but through the quiet power of being missed. The person who doesn't always appear on demand becomes someone whose presence is never taken for granted. In a world of overexposure and constant availability, you stand apart. Strategic absence also sets boundaries without needing explanation. Scarcity itself becomes the message. Those who are always busy, always focused, always selective with their energy don't have to explain why they're not easily reached. Their life speaks for them. That unspoken boundary commands more respect than any verbal demand ever could. The masters of this art know that silence often speaks louder than presence. Look at the top figures in any industry. The most respected aren't everywhere, all the time. They're calculated. You don't hear from them constantly, but when you do, it matters. Their words carry weight because they rise above the everyday noise. Their absence becomes the very frame that amplifies their presence. And there's power in not being emotionally available at all times. Just like physical accessibility, when overgiven, emotional access loses value. If people know they can unload their problems on you endlessly, drain your energy, and rely on you without limits, they begin to devalue that access. When you make it clear, without ever saying a word, that your energy is a privilege, not a right, people naturally adjust how they approach you. This isn't about being cold. It's about being intentional. You decide when to engage. You decide when to disconnect. You become the architect of your own availability. And because of that, you never appear desperate for attention, validation, or approval. You're not the one constantly proving, performing, or showing up just to be noticed. You're the one whose presence itself makes a statement, because it isn't handed out cheaply. This applies to relationships, too. Absence sharpens appreciation, while too much presence breeds complacency. You've seen it happen. People who are always around eventually get taken for granted. But the one who knows how to step away, to let silence speak, to let absence create a subtle tension, that person is remembered differently, valued differently, respected differently. This approach isn't manipulation, nor is it some childish game. It's the understanding that your time, Your energy, your presence are finite resources. And the way you manage them teaches the world how to treat you. If you give them away too freely, you send the message they're abundant, easily acquired, and therefore easily dismissed. But when you become selective, when you withdraw strategically, when you create space between appearances, you send a far stronger signal. My presence is a privilege. And the world listens. There's an elegance to it, an untouchable quality. You rise above the desperate scramble for attention that most people unknowingly fall into. You no longer need to constantly remind people of your value. Your absence does that for you. You become the person others think about even when you're not in the room. The weight of your name grows precisely because you're not always available to be seen, heard, or accessed. People inevitably chase what they cannot easily have. This is a timeless law of human behavior. When you're everywhere, you become common. When you're selective, you become significant. And that significance doesn't need noise, announcements, or explanations. It lives in the subtle, undeniable power of being missed. So you must practice the discipline of walking away, not out of weakness, but out of strength. The strength to recognize that constant presence isn't power, but strategic presence is. True influence isn't in showing up everywhere. It's in being remembered after you've gone. Respect rarely follows the loudest voice. It belongs to the one who knows when to speak and when to stay silent, when to appear and when to withdraw, when to engage and when to let the world wonder. Mastering strategic absence means being felt even when unseen, being heard even when silent, being remembered even when out of sight. It's becoming the person whose presence is so carefully rationed that, when you do show up, the energy in the room shifts instantly. That is a power no words could ever buy. It's a kind of power presence alone could never create. Only absence can. Because in the end, you become what you tolerate. Life is not shaped by what you want, hope for, or dream about. It's shaped by what you are willing to tolerate. Every time you accept less than you deserve, whether it's disrespect, mediocrity, broken promises, disorganization, laziness, or chaos, you send a silent message to the world and to yourself. This is acceptable. And the harsh truth is that what you tolerate never stays neutral. It multiplies. It compounds. It grows. Your entire reality is nothing more than a reflection of your standards. Look at your environment, your relationships, your finances, your health, even your inner peace. Every piece of it mirrors exactly what you've chosen to allow. Not consciously. No one willingly chooses stress, failure, or pain. But unconsciously, it happens through the small things you let slide. The skipped boundaries, the moments you stayed silent, the times you ignored that inner voice whispering, "This isn't okay." This becomes the silent contract most people sign with the world without realizing it. I am okay with this. Whether it's being underpaid, overlooked, disrespected, or trapped in underperformance, it rarely happens overnight. It builds through countless micro-decisions to tolerate what should have been confronted, corrected, or left behind. And the world doesn't argue. It simply reflects the standards you enforce, or the ones you don't. The most dangerous lie people tell themselves is, "It's not that bad." That quiet justification becomes the breeding ground for a suffocating life. Mediocrity doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in like fog, soft, subtle, and patient. You overlook the small disrespect, excuse the missed workout, justify the late payment, ignore the lack of follow-through. Then, before you realize it, you're drowning in an ocean of neglected boundaries. But here's the good news. The reverse is also true. The moment you decide to raise your standards, to stop tolerating what drains, disrespects, or diminishes you, the world shifts. It has no choice. Because your standards aren't just for you. They are the rules you hand to the world about how it must treat you, the terms and conditions of your life. You either enforce them, or you become trapped by the absence of them. This is where most people misunderstand power. They think it's loud, born from confrontation, aggression, or dominance. It isn't. True power is quiet. It lives in the invisible lines you draw that declare, "This is as low as I go. Anything beneath this doesn't exist in my world." You don't need to announce it or argue about it. You simply become unavailable for nonsense. And when you carry yourself as someone unavailable for nonsense, it stops showing up. Life reorganizes itself around your standards. Relationships shift. People either rise to meet your level or fall away. Opportunities realign, and the distractions that once seemed impossible to avoid suddenly lose their grip. You begin to operate on a different frequency, and frequencies always attract their own reflections. Extraordinary lives aren't built on luck. They're built by people ruthless about what they tolerate. They don't entertain disorder, inconsistency, or disrespect from others or from themselves. Their lowest standard becomes another person's highest. What most call good enough is completely unacceptable to them, and the world notices. Because the world always notices the person who holds the line with discipline, clarity, and quiet certainty. You become what you tolerate, not just externally, but internally. The standards you set for others mirror the ones you set for yourself. If you tolerate laziness in others, chances are you've also tolerated it within yourself. If you tolerate broken commitments from others, chances are you've allowed your own commitments to slide too. Your relationship with yourself is always the first contract. If that contract is weak, every other one will be as well. Raising your standards isn't about perfection, it's about precision. It's about deciding what is non-negotiable, what is sacred, what is utterly untouchable. Your energy is finite, and every time you let something beneath your standard remain in your life, it drains the reserves that should fuel your mission, your peace, and your growth. This shift is rarely smooth. When you stop tolerating what you once accepted, friction follows. People will resist because they grew comfortable with the version of you who made space for their dysfunction, their inconsistency, and their lack of accountability. And when you change the rules without warning or apology, it disrupts their reality. Some will get angry, some will try to guilt you, and others will disappear. Let them. Their exit is proof that your new standard is working exactly as intended. Every upgrade in life comes with an audit. The people, habits, mindsets, and environments tied to the old version of you cannot always cross into the new one. That is the price of evolution. And if you're unwilling to pay it, you remain stuck, trapped in cycles of tolerating what drains you, diminishes you, and erodes your potential. But the moment you decide, truly decide, to stop making space for what insults your soul, your entire life begins to recalibrate. The universe, for all its mystery, runs on a simple truth. It mirrors your standards. When you draw the line, the world respects it. When you hold it, the world bends to it. This isn't just about removing what's bad. It's about making space for what's great. When you stop tolerating mediocrity, excellence has room to enter. When you stop entertaining distractions, focus becomes natural. When you stop settling for crumbs, you open the door to feasts. But none of it happens until you become ruthless about what no longer belongs in your life. The world bends to those who refuse to bend for nonsense. And the best part? The shift is instant. It doesn't take years to change your standards. It takes a decision. One moment where you draw the line, burn the old contract, and write a new one with yourself. From this day forward, this is who I am. This is what I accept. This is what I refuse. Anything beneath that standard no longer belongs in your reality. People will notice. Those who matter will respect it. Those who don't will leave. Let them, because the cost of keeping them is your growth, your peace, your potential. And that is far too high a price for anyone serious about building a life that feels as good inside as it looks outside. You become what you tolerate. Your standards are the architects of your future. The sooner you stop allowing what drains you, the sooner you start building a life that elevates you and reflects the highest version of yourself. This is the law. It has never failed, and it never will. Invisible power. The law of non-reaction. Real power is rarely loud. It's not the person shouting, interrupting, or forcing opinions. The most commanding form of power is the one you cannot see. True power often settles in silence. It lives in presence, in stillness, and most of all in the ability to remain unmoved in a world addicted to constant reaction. The person who masters non-reaction becomes untouchable. When you no longer allow others to move you emotionally, they lose all control. You become the one who decides. You dictate the energy, the tone, and the outcome. Most people, without even realizing it, live entirely reactive lives. Every comment, glance, setback, or provocation pulls their emotions in every direction. A snide remark ruins their day. A small slight hijacks their focus. A minor inconvenience sends them spiraling. Their lives become a puppet show, controlled by invisible strings tied to everyone and everything around them. The worst part? They believe this is normal. They accept reacting as inevitable, as if emotional turbulence is just part of life. But it isn't. There is another way, a way that feels like stepping out of the storm while everyone else is drowning in it. Non-reaction is not passivity, not weakness, not avoidance. It is discipline. It is the conscious choice to hold your power so firmly that you refuse to hand it to anyone, critics, manipulators, or life's random inconveniences. And when you master non-reaction, something extraordinary happens. People stop knowing how to control you. Their grip is gone. The tactics that work on everyone else, the passive-aggressive digs, the guilt trips, the provocations, suddenly fall flat. They bounce off you like static, and in that instant, the entire power dynamic shifts. You are no longer reacting to the world. The world is reacting to you. Picture someone trying to insult you, expecting the usual cycle of defensiveness or retaliation. But you don't flinch. You don't engage. You don't even acknowledge it. Instantly, the script shatters. Their weapon, those words meant to provoke, lose all force. The silence becomes deafening. That lack of reaction speaks louder than any comeback ever could. And in that silence, their power dissolves. You remain steady, composed, untouchable. This truth extends far beyond conflict. It applies to stress, pressure, urgency, and manipulation. Every tool the world uses to pull you off center loses its grip. When someone demands a rushed decision, you stay calm. When tension rises, you refuse to escalate with it. You become the anchor while others flail in the storm. Your refusal to react sends a powerful message. I decide how I feel. Not you. Not this. Not anything outside of me. The discipline of non-reaction doesn't mean becoming emotionless. It's about mastering the gap between stimulus and response. It's realizing that just because something happens doesn't mean it deserves your energy. You observe, you evaluate, and only then, you choose. Do I engage? Do I ignore? Do I act? Or simply let it pass? The key is that the choice becomes yours, not an automatic reaction triggered by someone else's behavior. The world is full of people who thrive on your reactions to feel powerful. The manipulator needs you upset so they can play the victim. The critic needs you defensive so they can feel superior. The attention seeker needs you to engage so they can drain your energy. But when you remove the possibility of reaction, you strip away their fuel. Suddenly, they're left staring at someone they cannot move, cannot shake, cannot control. For them, it's unsettling. For you, it's liberating. Non-reaction becomes a kind of psychological warfare, yet one where you never raise a hand. You stand in quiet command, and everyone else adjusts. People begin speaking more carefully around you, choosing their words with greater precision. They think twice before bringing chaos to your door, knowing it won't land. You've stepped out of the unconscious dance of reactivity. Mastering this means mastering yourself, and that requires deep inner work, the kind most will never do. It demands awareness of your triggers, patterns, and weaknesses. You start to see where you've been giving your power away, often without realizing it. And then you stop. You reclaim it. You begin shaping yourself into the one who commands your inner world so completely that nothing external can disrupt it. This is the essence of true power. Some may call it presence. Others may call it composure. But what they really sense is your refusal to be moved by anything unworthy of your energy. It's an invisible shield that comes from knowing yourself so thoroughly that nothing outside dictates what happens within. The most influential people in the world all share this. They are not easily rattled. They don't react to every provocation. Instead, they move with calm precision, speaking deliberately and wielding silence as if it were a weapon. And in truth, it is. Because when you master silence and non-reaction, you force the world to reveal itself. The impulsive, the manipulators, the insecure, they all expose themselves in the space you leave by refusing to react. While they scramble to fill the void with noise, you remain still, observing, evaluating, deciding. This is how you gain control, by mastering yourself. Not through force, not through aggression, but through the steady presence of someone who cannot be hijacked, dragged into chaos, or baited into games that serve no purpose. The paradox is striking. While it looks like you're doing nothing, you're actually doing everything. You assert dominance without aggression, command respect without asking, and shift power dynamics without lifting a finger. You become the immovable object in a world addicted to chasing the title of unstoppable force. And when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, the object always wins. Mastering the law of non-reaction doesn't just change how people treat you. It changes how life treats you. Problems stop feeling like emergencies. Challenges lose their sting. You realize that most fires were never real, only illusions designed to steal your focus, your energy, and your power. But not anymore. Once you step into this level of control, non-reaction becomes your default. Not because you're numb, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand the truth. Anything that pulls you out of your center owns you, and you do not belong to anything outside yourself. In a world that thrives on chaos, the person who stays still becomes the one everyone notices, the one everyone respects, the one no one can shake. This is invisible power. This is the law of non-reaction. And once you master it, you never return to the old way. The world doesn't bend for those chasing approval, reacting to noise, or shrinking themselves. It bends for those who lead with presence, certainty, and discipline. Power isn't granted, it's claimed. The moment you decide to master yourself, to walk like you belong, speak with authority, and withdraw as if your absence carries power, the world begins adapting to you. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. Move like this, and everything changes. Wishing you health, happiness, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.